controversial 7 out of 10. We're aiming for a controversial 7 out of 10. But something's wrong with the game.
That's most definitely what's up.
How's everybody doing? You feeling good? I hope so. I hope so, truly. Is it just me, or does Luke's head look bigger than expected? It's a great question. That's a fantastic question. Considering I am a YouTuber, you would expect it probably to be massive. So the fact that I am rocking a bowling ball on a toothpick probably seems about right. Probably seems about right. How's everybody doing? Cheers. Cheers. Got some iced coffee. My wife teases me for putting iced coffee into a bottle that has a straw, but it's more efficient. Gets the coffee in faster. I will not be bullied. I will not be. I draw the line there. Okay, so bully her back. Couple of like little things, I guess, just as we let people kind of feed in here. I saw an actual crew of live action role players yesterday. Like actual LARPers. And if you haven't seen this before, let me see if I can find like a video showing it. I think this is it. Yeah, this is basically what we saw. But this is like on Marvel Studio. Okay, it wasn't. Oh wait, hold on. I have the wrong input. Hold on, please hold. Please hold. Okay. Now. Okay, yeah, it worked. I saw this. Like it was a bunch of people in the park in like downtown dressed up with like swords and axes and full armor And they were having like, they had swords, but they were wrapped in pool noodles and they were just beating the crap out of each other. It was crazy. And apparently this is a thing. People just go out and yeah, it was kind of like this. They just meet in parks on the weekend and have like little fantasy battles where they just beat the crap out of each other and role play as if they're fighting medieval battles. Who knew? But we drove by them and I was like, oh, yeah, that is. I've heard stories of LARPers. I've heard stories and legends foretold, but I've never actually seen it in person, I don't think. Maybe in college once or twice, maybe, but like I didn't remember ever seeing it before, and so it was kind of surreal. Because we're just driving through and then we just see people like, yeah, with the cars in the background, kind of like this, just in a park. It's just funny. Except these people aren't wearing like full costumes. One guy, or a couple people are. These other people are just wearing jeans and t-shirts, but they were all dressed like in actual armor. It was a little crazy. So I saw that yesterday. That's a thing apparently that happens. So that's fun. Don't these LARPers get bored of the repetitive combat and story? No, the encounter design is really good. Because you never know who's going to show up, you know. Yeah, that's not a Volvo, that's a silver dragon. Actually, it's a silver dragon. So yeah, that happened. That was fun. The other thing that happened this weekend is Saturday night, Nikki went to the gym, and I'm not gonna say what it is for like, because one of my lawyers said, don't tell anybody what kind of car you drive, especially you've been dealing with swattings and stuff, so I'm gonna follow his advice. But I won't say what it was or what it is, but we got a new car. We had to kind of swap out cars basically a handful of weeks ago. And the new car has temp plates, right? Well, on a temp plate, it has the number, the temporary plate number, and then it has the make and model and build of the car, the color of the car printed on the temporary plate, and then it has the date that the plate expires. Somebody stole our temporary plate that lists the car on it. Like, she was parked at the gym, and while she was inside the gym, somebody stole the temporary plate. Why? Like, at least I've heard of people stealing license plates because it's just a series of numbers. You put it on a stolen car and then you drive off, and you know, it looks less suspicious as long as the plate isn't scanned or anything. But temporary plates is like a next level of stupid, because like if you steal, let's just say you steal a plate for a temporary plate for a Lamborghini, it's gonna say Lamborghini, yellow, expires on this date. So if you put that temporary plate on a stolen Honda Civic, it's not gonna look right. Like, what? Why would you do that? It calls more attention to the car. Because if somebody's driving on the highway or behind you on a city street and they see that temp plate on a car that doesn't match it, they're gonna be like, wait, that their temporary plate says it's for X car. The car it's on is not that car. I'm gonna call this in. So unless they stole the exact same type of car, yeah. In that case, big brain move right there. But anyway, so we called the non-emergency line, and I spoke to the dispatcher and told him what happened. And then they had a deputy called me, and then he, I think, went to the gym to try and pull like security footage off their cameras to see if he could spot it. But they probably don't find it. My understanding is they probably are just going to make that temporary plate like invalid, so the number doesn't, like, the number comes back stolen as the plate stolen. So if anybody tries to use it, they're screwed. But in the meantime, now our car just doesn't have a license plate at all. And I asked the deputy, like, can we still drive? Like, we only have one car. What do we do? And it's the weekend. Like, we can't just go to the DMV. Plus, when you get when you go to get a new car, usually, unless it's like a smaller mom and pop operation or they have the title on hand, usually the title for the car is held at like a corporate office and then they mail it to you like a month later. So we still don't have the official title for the car. We just have like the temporary registration and stuff. So we can't even, as far as I understand, we can't even go in and get the full plates yet because we don't have the stuff we need yet. So we have to go into the DMV probably tomorrow morning because today they're fully booked up, and which makes sense. It's almost the end of the month, which apparently the end of the month is like the busiest time for the DMV because everybody procrastinates to get their stuff taken care of by the end of the month. But we have an appointment tomorrow and I'm gonna have to go in and try to tell the DMV people what happened and get them to give me a replacement temporary plate, which I don't even know if they can do. So Luke finally got a Lambo. I was gonna say I wish, but here's the thing. I live in Colorado. A Lamborghini is like the most insane, stupid car for this climate. It doesn't make any sense. For one, none of our streets are that flat. All of our streets, all of the highways, everything have like these rounded ways to them for the snow to kind of slough off to make it safer during the snowstorms that come in. And because we have a lot of snow melt and stuff, all of the city streets are also sloped pretty hard. So the gutters are deeper than in a lot of cities. And so if you're like pulling off of the street into a gas station, for example, there's a pretty big dip, which if you have a car that's a little higher off the ground, it's not a big deal. But if you're driving a Lambo with like 3 inches of clearance, it's a nightmare. I remember this was like back in college, I guess, but there's a guy that lives in North Fort Collins. I think it's the CEO of OtterBox. I'm not sure. The phone case manufacturer. Oh, Nikki says she just called the DMV and got a slot at Fort Collins once they okay. It's amazing. Once you throw out that we have a case number from the sheriff's department, everybody starts cooperating. It's funny. But yeah, in Fort Collins, I think, because that's where I went to college, in Fort Collins is where like OtterBox is based. And if you don't know OtterBox, you've probably seen their products if you've gotten a cell phone in the recent history. But they make these cell phone cases. You know, these, a lot of people use OtterBox, and they're based in Fort Collins. And so like one time when I was working in Magnolia Home Theater, we designed the theater system for the, at the time, CEO of OtterBox. Since then, I think it's somebody else. But there's a guy that drives around Fort Collins in a couple different Lamborghinis, and he has a Bugatti. And the Bugatti is like lime green, like neon lime green. And the Lambos are all like yellow. And then there's a house that is on top of like a manufactured mountain, and straight up this guy's lot, it's in like Severance, it's in like east of the highway, but this house straight up is like a mile by a mile is the plot of land, huge fences. He came in with bulldozers, crafted his own like little valleys. He has a man-made lake on his property. It's outrageous. So dude's swimming in it. I mean, ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. And I think he might be the one that drives that car. But it's always funny because I remember in college driving through Old Town, and there's a gas station on one of the corners, and I was behind this Bugatti, and I was like, ooh, cool, a Bugatti. I'm driving my little $500 1996 Volvo station wagon and seeing this 200 something thousand dollar car, whatever it is. I was like, that's kind of cool. That's a nice car. But then I saw him try to pull into that gas station, and the dude had to, like, it was painful because, again, it dipped so heavily. So he had to do this weird thing where, like, he came in at an off angle and then backed up and then went back up a little bit because he couldn't just hit it. Otherwise, he'd bump off his fender. So he had to kind of, like, waddle up the side of this entrance, took all of traffic, blocked it all up because he had to do like a 15-point turn to get into the gas station. It was ridiculous. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe having a fancy, like a Bugatti or a Lambo is not practical. But imagine that. It's almost like they're not that practical. They're just exercises in expense and excess. So even if I were a billionaire, I don't think I'd ever buy a Lambo because it's like, not to mention, how on earth do you park that thing? I don't think you'd ever park it. Like, you're not parking that car at Costco. You're not doing that. You know? Like, surely you'd be panicking the whole time that somebody's going to mess with it. You know? I think you'd be better off. Like, buy a yacht. Buy a yacht, keep it on a private property or something. Do that. If you want to burn money. But driving a car that you can't really take places, I don't like, I don't understand it. I genuinely don't get it. If there's no valet, I'm not going in my Lambo. Exactly, Codfather. Exactly. Oh my God. Gotta show up the Lambo in suburbia. Yeah, dude, for real. Oh, no, okay. I know what you're saying. Ige, or Ige, I'm not sure. You're not going to Costco if you're in a Lambo. I will protest. Costco's amazing. And a lot of people that have a lot of money because they love deals like at Costco. One of my old bosses that was filthy rich, just easily, probably, I was gonna say easily, but I don't know that for a fact. Probably over 100 million was his net worth, like very, very, very well off. And he, like, his favorite meal was Costco pizza. Like that's what he wanted to do if we ever drove for like a meeting to like northern Colorado where there's a Costco right off the highway, which was just funny. So even if you're filthy rich, some of those people still love them some Costco pizza. It's the great unifier. I think that's what we need. That's what should be the staple of this election season. We need to unify as a country. Let's bring the rich and poor together. All the races come together. Everybody unite under a love of Costco pizza. I think that would do it. I think that would do it, honestly. Oh God, I'm behind. Poor people like expensive crap. Rich people don't care. Some rich people do, but the rich people that do aren't often rich for long. It's like when you find out that a lot of these athletes that make $200 million end up broke and lose all their money. And it's because they spent like $30 million on a tiger for some reason, or they wanted a gold toilet for some reason. So there, it's the old difference between like new money and old money. Old money, you're probably not going to be able to tell that they're rich. We have somebody that's quite wealthy in like our family, and you would never guess this guy is loaded. You would never guess. Like he wears the same clothes he's worn for 15 years. His glasses are like falling apart and are super dirty usually. He's just like so down to earth. It's ridiculous. And if you saw him, oh yeah, he drives like a 25-year-old pickup. Like, it's crazy. He also likes to dumpster dive for stuff. Like, he's insane. You're related to Asmongold? Yeah, basically. Once I said dumpster dive, that gave it away, right? They gave it away. Yeah, it's just old money, you're not really going to be able to tell. New money, you can always tell. You can always tell. Okay. I guess we should talk about this before a bunch of people come in and ask about it. Just blast through these real quick. Because it sounds like we need to go to the DMV relatively okay, she said they're just going to reissue the template that expires that same date. Our last one did. Oh, sweet. Wonderful. Wife, Pog. Okay. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Unfortunately, sorry. Oh, sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry. Hold on. New segment. Okay. So with this, okay, here we go. Unfortunately, it's yet another round of layoffs hitting the industry, just announced today, because we can't have anything nice and everything's terrible. And this is coming to a studio that I've actually loved for a long time. They've gone through some trouble recently, so I can't say that it's like the most surprising development, but it's still unfortunate. And of course, in this case, we're talking about Supermassive Games, who announced that they're going to lay off about 90 people, which is roughly 30% of their current staff count, which is a lot. That's a big deal. Big deal. Also, Fearless Wolf, thank you so much for the super chat. I'll answer that and get to that in just a minute, my friend. Thank you. Supermassive Games set to lay off 90 people, 30%. In a new report from Bloomberg, the studio behind games like The Quarry and Until Dawn told 150 employees, roughly 50% of the employee base, that they were, quote, at risk of being let go. The notice came Monday morning as members of the company were beginning their work week. They also posted a statement on social media. Let's see if Bloomberg has the full statement linked. I don't think they do. Bloomberg. It's so expensive to be subbed to Bloomberg. I can't do it. Anymore. I used to be subbed to it, but it's just, there were like 3 articles a week I would bother reading. Anyway, so after much deliberation and with deep regret, we are therefore undertaking the reorganization of Supermassive Games. They said, as a result, we are entering into a period of consultation. Not consolidation, consultation, which we anticipate will result in the loss of some of our colleagues. This is not a decision that's been taken lightly, with many efforts made to avoid this outcome. We are all too aware of how unsettling and difficult this process is going to be for our employees, and we will be working closely with all those involved to ensure the process is conducted as respectfully and compassionately as possible. Currently, Supermassive Games is working on a collaboration effort with Behavior Interactive on a new game set in the Dead by Daylight universe called The Casting of Frank Stone. This one, I think they announced this before. It was kind of like, I don't know. After being announced on Wednesday, this was back in December though, so I think it was the Game Awards. No, that was Thursday. So the day before, I don't know. Yeah, they got more information then, but it was this trailer, this reveal trailer, if you recall. Didn't really give us a lot of information. It's fine. Like, it's fine. It could be cool. I just don't think of Dead by Daylight as like a very narrative franchise. And typically Supermassive excels at the kind of choose your own adventure narrative stuff. So it was kind of surprising to see them tie up into that. However, apparently they're having to do some significant downsizing. It could be that perhaps they were gauging interest in this game, and so they were just trying to gauge, like, okay, how many people are going to be that thrilled about it? Are people going to be super hyped? It's gotten a lot of views, so people are into it, but already there's confusion. So, like, for some people who are confused, if a fan has to go into your comment section and explain what's going on, there's a problem. Like, already the messaging is confused. If people watch your trailer and they're like, okay, so what is it? That's an issue. This is a brand new single player IP, or single player game set in the Dead by Daylight universe, featuring, as far as we know, original characters who will likely come to Dead by Daylight as skins or characters in the future. This is made in collaboration with Supermassive Games, who are known to be behind Until Dawn, The Quarry, and the Dark Pictures anthology. This game will likely be in a style where the player makes choices that will alter the story. It will release sometime in 2024 this year. So, like, okay, interesting. Maybe it finds success. I honestly am not too familiar with the Dead by Daylight community, so I don't know if this is something that they're super into. The view counts are good. The like to dislike ratio is good. So people seem to, at the very least, be interested. One of the other things that Supermassive Games is working on is... I accept cookies. Okay. Little Nightmares 3, which you might recall this announcement trailer. I'm a fan of Little Nightmares. I've always really liked the art style. The style of game is just something I like. It's very simple in terms of gameplay. It's just kind of like your standard puzzle game that you kind of wander around, and they sort of tell stories through the ambiance, and environmental storytelling is kind of the key with it. But to see Supermassive Games heading this one up was surprising. So they have 2 decent sized projects in the works, but apparently they're just not that confident in maybe the revenues generated by them, or perhaps they just felt that they had grown too big, and so they needed to shrink back down and do some layoffs to get to a reasonable size again. It's just frankly a bit unclear at the moment. One of the questions I see popping around in chat is, it's because of AI. Do you think AI has anything to do with this? Do you think AI is the reason for so many layoffs in so many gaming companies? So potentially. We don't know, as far as I'm aware, which groups of people are being affected by these layoffs, because it's just not something that they've shared yet. Where is it? Yeah, so like Costas, or Casey on Twitter, he posted this. Well, unfortunately, I've been affected by our studio layoffs. I've worked with some amazing people, but now it's my turn to look around in a very difficult environment. If you want an ultra dedicated environment artist with technical knowledge and Unreal Engine expertise, let me know. So an environment artist. I think, like, if it were AI affected, it would probably be maybe concept artists. I think they're under pretty significant threat right now from consolidation under AI tools, where you can get one concept artist to generate stuff with Midjourney, and you just don't need that many hands on deck to generate concept art. So I think that's an area that could see layoffs. I think you could see maybe some lower level programmers laid off, because there are some people that say that AI is getting very, very good to the point where it can do a lot of the lower level stuff. That's a little bit more simple, and it can do it very quickly. So you could see some of that. Sometimes you'll see layoffs with, like, maybe engine staff or like engine coders and engineers, software engineers working on the engine. But in this case, they're not shifting engines, so I don't think that's it. It's just, my guess is that they probably have expanded. They maybe had some extra money coming in with some of these bigger deals, and some of that has just dried up. And as I mentioned at the top, there's been a handful of projects they've worked on that just haven't really hit it out of the park. One of the things that they are, of course, known for was Until Dawn, But since then, they've kind of been meandering. And for a while, they did like a bunch of VR stuff. So you see they did Until Dawn, and then they did a bunch of VR stuff. And then like Hidden Agenda, Inpatient VR, Bravo Team VR. So they did just a bunch of random little stuff. And then they got into what they called the horror anthology, which is basically like a collection of smaller horror games. In specific, or to be specific, it's Man of Medan, Little Hope, House of Ashes, The Devil in Me. And it's an interesting concept. Like, hey, we're not going to like reinvent the wheel, but we're going to provide you 3 or 4 smaller games basically in this genre that are more digestible, that are smaller, cheaper, maybe 30, 40 bucks, and you can go for it. The problem is they just weren't very good. Part of the strategy, if I recall correctly from the articles I read at the time, was that the horror anthology was supposed to be their way of kind of building back up those creative muscles after taking off 4 or 5 years from Until Dawn and what they did there. So they were trying to acquire talent, hire new people, or hire back people, and get to the point where they could comfortably do these things again, kind of leading all the way to the Quarry from 2022. And it sort of worked. I mean, Man of Medan I thought was kind of trash. It was buggy. It was kind of broken. There were some cool innovations in it as far as co-op gameplay was concerned, but not a whole lot. Little Hope was a bit better. House of Ashes was really, really weird. Just odd. And then Devil in Me also did not review very well. The Quarry, Nikki and I had a lot of fun with this. This one was really, really fun. It's a campy B-grade horror movie, but that's exactly what Until Dawn was. And if you liked Until Dawn, I think you'll like The Quarry a lot. So I would encourage you to try that. But it just seems like they have 2 different teams going at any time. They have the VR team going, and then they have the like horror game team. And it's not really clear which side they're laying off. Or maybe there's overlap. Maybe the people that do environmental design and maybe some of the artists and stuff that are getting laid off work on both of these projects. But it just seems like it's a kind of confused studio that does 2 pretty different things, because to specialize in VR games is very different than specializing in like choose your own adventure horror games. So my hope is they can at least focus on one thing and do it really, really well, because many of their recent projects just have been very split in focus. One of the other things this tells me with like these smaller projects like Little Nightmares 2 on Stadia, the enhanced edition of Little Nightmares 2, these things suggest to me maybe they're taking contracted work to make up the difference and make some money as a studio. I hope the Quarry made money. I don't know. But like even Until Dawn, you would think that they would be given the chance to remaster that and remake it, but they're not even the ones remaking that game. They're remaking Until Dawn, but it's somebody else that Sony assigned it to. They didn't even assign it to the original studio, which I've always thought was really strange. So I wish them the absolute best. It's really, really unfortunate to see layoffs when, you know, you'd hope that they'd be growing, but it just seems to be a very split team in terms of focus and intention. And they have, of course, you know, this project in the works, Little Nightmares 3. So they have some big games potentially coming down the pike, but it just seems like they're struggling to get it lined up and figured out, which is unfortunate. 30% of their staff. It could be that maybe they have a third of their staff is like managers, producers, artists doing concept art, stuff like that. And then another third is working on the VR stuff, and another third is working on the horror anthology stuff. And maybe they're laying off the VR team or a chunk of the VR team. Maybe they're laying off a chunk of the anthology horror team, and they're going to lean into VR stuff. Maybe they're making more money there. It just seems like they're trying to rework it because they don't feel like what they're doing now is working, unfortunately. With so much of this, though, it's just, it seems like often these companies are laying people off, sometimes because of just corporate oversight. They expanded too much and now they're trying to dig themselves out of a difficult hole. that they put themselves in. And in the case of like Embracer Group layoffs, that's absolutely what's happening. But in this case, it seems to me more like they're trying to reevaluate and fix something that's not working properly. In the same vein, like the layoffs that hit, what was it? I mean, Xbox laid off a bunch of people in Activision, for example, and Blizzard, which when people lost their minds over that it was kind of bizarre to me, because it's like a year ago you were complaining that they had 3,000 developers working on Call of Duty and the game is still crap. So now that they're cutting some of the fat, trying to reorganize to make the company more efficient, you're upset about that? Like, how does that make any sense? Like, unfortunately, yeah, sometimes companies need to be reformatted and restructured to function more effectively, especially when a company has been mismanaged for so long, you know? But I don't know. It's just, I wish them the best. I hope Supermassive figures it out, because I love Until Dawn. I love The Quarry. I would love to see them really specialize in that, but it's not always about what one niche likes. Maybe another niche likes something else. It's just, it could be that the VR stuff is way more profitable. It could be that porting other games to modern hardware is more profitable, and at the end of the day, it's a business and they got to figure out what works best. So what you gonna do? Let's see. Okay, Bing Bang. Companies can specialize in two things. Look at Warner Brothers making Batman and Suicide Squad. You got me there. You got me there. Oh man. You got me. That's pretty funny. Okay. Ba-ba-bum. There we go. Okay. Real quick, Fearless Wolf, thank you for the 10-pound super chat. Thank you, my friend. Very generous. Hey, Luke, there was a story yesterday that an insider at Warner Brothers said they might kill Suicide Squad, kill the Justice League, like what happened to Marvel's Avengers, because they won't be making their money back from a small player base. I guess this could constitute, Jacob, a new segment. I think that would not surprise anybody. I mean, let's just be perfectly honest. We are currently, oh my God. I know it's a Monday, but that's not good. That's pretty bad. 500 players. Oh my God. Oh my God. How many people are playing Marvel's Avengers? Probably like 13. You can't even buy the game anymore. 153. Dude, they're speed running, getting pretty close to Marvel's Avengers, dude. That's wow. So yeah, they didn't even hit close to the peak either. So they're getting there. They're getting there. A lot of the fan base is just pissed because the game is still broken. Like I've been blown away at how the subreddit has just been fed up with all of this stuff. Like they're just pissed. Yeah, I mean, people are just like, what are we doing? It's, yeah. Anybody else taking a break? I feel like I've been burnt out on this game pretty quick, and with all the bugs and server issues going on, I'm just going to wait until it's all fixed. Hopefully season 1 begins. My question is, like, I've seen a lot of people complain about the matchmaking, and I'm wondering if the matchmaking issues are just because nobody's playing it, so they can't find randos to fill. There are some issues actually matchmaking with like friends and stuff, which is a bigger problem. But I did that video the other day on Suicide Squad, and I was playing on Xbox, and I was trying to find people to play with, and there's just nobody. Like nobody was available. Nobody was playing. It was just dead. It's just dead. As you can see, your game is unplayable. Every time I complete a mission, it says loading Metropolis that never ends. Or when it does, Warner Brothers kicks me out. I've been trying to platinum, but it's becoming unbearable when I can't even play for 20 minutes. Yeah, the servers are a joke, not gonna lie. Also, matchmaking is so bugged out. I don't think I've ever been matched with 3 others at the same time. It might also just be that the game doesn't have that many players, which is a bigger issue. Server issues with no players is a big issue. So pulling the plug on this, I don't think anybody would be shocked. This game cost, probably when you factor in like marketing and everything, it's taken in hundreds of millions of dollars. That's how much it's taken to get this game out the door. Because again, Rocksteady has been functioning. They've had the lights on. They've been employing well over 100 people for like 9 years with nothing but the Arkham VR game to show for it. And so after that, like 7, 8 years of just nothing to produce this with 500 people in game on Steam. Maybe you have like 1,000 people on PlayStation and 35 people on Xbox. Like nobody has bought this. Nobody's playing it. And that's just unacceptable. I mean, there is no way to twist it. The Warner Brothers chief financial officer, he of course said that he was very disappointed at the performance. Let me see if I can find, I linked it in my video. Please hold. Please hold here. It's this link. At 2250. 2250. This is the actual investor call, okay? Actual investor call. You ready? This is the chief financial officer of Warner Brothers Discovery. Just listen to how quickly he pivots off of the Suicide Squad question.
Suicide Squad, one of our key video game releases in 2024, has fallen short of our expectations since its release earlier in the quarter.
Since its release earlier in the quarter.
Setting our games business up for a tough year-over-year comp in Q1. On the film side, Q1...
That's it. That's it. That's how much time they spent on Suicide Squad.
Business up for a tough year-over-year. Suicide Squad, one of our key video game releases in 2024, has fallen short of our expectations since its release earlier in the quarter, setting our games business up for a tough year-over-year comp in Q1.
That's it. That's the extent of it. Granted, you don't really want to talk a whole lot about your negatives when you are talking to investors. But as you can see, I mean, they have just been blowing it. Like, look at these comps. Like year over year, Q2 missed by 13 cents a share. Q3 missed by 16 cents a share. Q4 missed by 9 cents a share. So the gray box is what they expected. That's what the IBES consensus estimates were. And they missed all of that. And then you could see, you know, their guesstimations on value, quality, growth and stability, financial health, stuff like that. And I mean, earnings per share growth last quarter versus same quarter prior year. Okay. It's just like right after this was dropped, they dropped like 13% in stock price because people were like, the hell are you guys doing? The hell are you guys doing? This is not the direction you want your stock price going in. This is, dare I say, bad. This is bad. So obviously they are very displeased with it. The last thing they wanted was a $200-300 million loss. And that's pretty much what they're looking at. They do have an obligation to release season 1, but there is a precedent for companies walking away from failed projects. A lot of people are like, no, if you announce a season pass, if you announce DLC, you have to do it. Otherwise you can be sued. Otherwise all these other things can happen. Maybe like, is somebody going to sue Warner Brothers Discovery if they cancel seasons 2, 3, and 4? Like, are you going to file a lawsuit over $20, $30. I mean, the only way you could do that is if you were a shareholder, or rather a stakeholder. If you were somebody that bought the season pass, you pre-purchased the DLC. But in this case, all of those seasonal updates are going to be free. They haven't charged you for it because they're free updates to the game. So the question is damages. You could say, well, I bought the $100 version of the game expecting to have 4 seasons of support, but I would guess, I haven't looked at it, I would guess there's probably in the fine print of that terms of service thing that you agree to before you can even boot up the game, you probably agree to them being allowed to provide or discontinue service at any time without any sort of punishment or obligation. Like I would guess that's probably in the terms of service, because it is in the terms of service of most online games. I mean, it's just it's pretty standard. So I don't think that there's any real cause for that. Of course, like AC Unity, they canceled the season pass for that game. So there is a precedent for companies doing this with big games that were full price. In this case, people bought a $30 season pass and the DLC was just canceled. They allowed the Dead Kings DLC to be released for free, and then they offered a copy of one of these games to compensate anybody who bought it, because I guess they couldn't just refund, or they didn't want to just refund, who knows. But there's been other occasions when big companies have canceled season passes and post-launch support when it was paid for. In Suicide Squad's case, it wasn't paid for because they were free updates, which some people, I saw somebody mention this in a comment. Somebody said, I think the only reason the seasons were going to be free and not $10 a piece or $20 a piece is because they knew there was a really high chance that this game would flop, and they wanted to be able to get out of it even easier. And if the seasonal updates were going to be free and there weren't like season pass holders that had already purchased it, it would be easier for them to walk away, which is probably true. Like, it probably is easier to walk away when nobody's had to buy into it, which is an interesting kind of conspiracy theory. So I would not be shocked, all that to say, if they walk away from this, because there is no way that even season 1 is going to make back the money. Because again, with seasonal updates being free, the only way they make money is if you go into the game and buy cosmetics, which is already going to be a really small portion of people. Like, not many people are going to be doing that. And that's assuming that you have like thousands and thousands of players engaging with it and playing the seasonal update, and then choosing to also purchase cosmetics for Joker, for Harley Quinn, or whoever. And if they are already so pissed at your game that they're walking away this early, there's just not much you can do. I'm still shocked it fell off this quick. I thought they were going to hit a peak of like 35,000, 34,000, I think is what I said on the podcast. I thought that they would probably retain like 10 to 5,000, somewhere in there for a while, but I did not. Like, I've been pretty bearish on this game. I did not see it collapsing this hard. Like, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. Even if you go with like the cream of the crop VG Insights, which is usually pretty generous to say like that their estimates are the highest. Because I think for like Pal World, look at their estimates for Pal World. Pal World's estimates are like 80 million or something. 72 million from Steam Spy. So Steam Spy thinks they sold 72. The estimates are just all over the place. Steam Spy in this case, 114,000. I don't really know how they calculate it or try to guess how many people have bought the game. But if we just like go in the middle and say 150,000 have purchased the game at 100, that's just on Steam to be fair, but just 150,000 times $70, you might make 10 million. There are costs for marketing. There's costs if any of the copies on PS5. Let's say that they also did another, maybe Steam is just a third, maybe 2/3 are on PlayStation, or even 3/4. Let's give them the real benefit of the doubt. Say they've sold 1 million copies, which I'm really, or not 1 million copies. I guess it would be 600,000. But even if they sold 600,000 copies, I just still am not sure. 750,000 copies. I just don't see it. I don't see how they could break even on this. I keep doing 60 instead of 70. I'm too forgiving. I don't see how they could make this money back. Especially because apparently they went pretty hard with marketing in big cities. They had like buses wrapped and they had all of this stuff going for it. It's just crazy. Could them doing drive-by Game Pass help them out a bit? The problem with now doing Game Pass is that a bunch of people a few weeks ago bought this for $70 or bought it for $100. So if they announce Game Pass in the summer, in like June or July, what are you going to do? Like, I think the core fan base is going to be so pissed. Like, what are you going to do? It's just sucky. So we'll see. Bro keeps beating a dead horse. Yeah, it's just a really funny dead horse to keep beating. Oh, and CM, we found the 2 players still playing it. Oh, yay. We found them. They've arrived. No, I think they're trolling. But with all this, like, it's just all of this to say, and to go back to the core question that was asked at the top of this, the story insider, that an insider Warner Brothers said they might kill the game, like what happened to Marvel's Avengers, because they won't be making their money back from small player base. I don't think it's a question of if they kill the game. It's just a matter of when. Maybe they go all the way through December. They release 4 seasons and then they do it with 30 players left. Or maybe they go and kill it off after season 1. Either way, I don't think anybody would be that surprised. It would just be, okay. Anyway, it would just be that meme embodied. So I blame Biden for killing this game. Dude, you have no idea. There is somebody that has gone on to that video, the one I just did on Suicide Squad, and they're just going off about all sorts of insanity. It's mad. It's mad. It's mad. I guess console doesn't exist. You're right. You're right. Consoles do technically exist, and almost all of the technical issues and server issues are on console right now. PlayStation 5 specifically. So has there been a game where government got involved in terms of censoring it or banning it? Depends on which government. In Australia has banned a lot of games for any number of reasons. So like, was it Postal 2? I think is what it was. They banned that game. There's a lot. There's a lot of games. It's always Australia. If we have any Aussies in chat, you can back me up on this, but the Australian government's been very, very hardcore when it comes to like censoring games. Germany has as well. If you guys remember the Saboteur, this game, I've talked about this a lot. I gotta fast forward through here because that's a brothel. Don't want that streamed. So this game, of course, is set in like Nazi occupied Paris. And because it's set in Nazi occupied Paris, there's swastikas, there's Nazi imagery all over the place. You fight Nazi soldiers. Like there's Nazi stuff because it's set in Nazi occupied Paris. In Germany, they didn't allow the swastika to be shown, so all of the like banners that are supposed to be big red flying with swastikas and stuff in the German release are all just like white flags. They're all just white flags, which is really, really kind of jarring when you've played the core game and like that constant imagery is kind of like it affects you. Like it's done very well. The art style in this game is super cool. Occupied areas are black and white. Freed areas turn to color. It's a really cool concept in terms of art style. You can see here, yeah, it goes black and white because this is an occupied area. Super cool concept. I love this game. It's super interesting. But the German release is really weird because all of these banners, all of this stuff is all just white. So they're just wearing white armbands, and all of a sudden it just feels much less dramatic. Much less dramatic. Yeah. It's okay, guys. People are allowed to like games and they're allowed to be upset that we're still talking about games that have collapsed in a hilarious way. That is their right. It is also our right to make fun of people and to get baby a bottle when they're really upset. You get to defend it. We get to tease you for defending it. Them's the rules. Them's the rules. Just like I'll defend Assassin's Creed Odyssey and you guys get to make fun of me for liking a bloated bad game. That's fair. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. Anyway. Jesus. Okay. It looks like there is even further reporting coming in backing up the idea that the Switch is not coming this year, unfortunately. I was really excited for Nintendo to come in and dominate the hardware discussion, maybe instill some excitement, because right now 2024 feels like we probably have a couple of big Ubisoft games. We have AC Red, we have Star Wars Outlaws. There's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming in like less than a week, of course, like a few days or a couple days. And beyond that, it's like, what else is really going to excite people? What's going to really dominate the discussion? I was hoping that would be Nintendo, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The Switch, wrong button. The Switch 2 is targeting March 2025, was delayed to avoid shortages, a new report claims. And it's also being corroborated with other reports that we've talked about before, of course. But this is according to a new report by Japanese news publication Nikkei, maybe? I don't know. Which claims that the Switch's successor's internal delay, reported first by VGC and others earlier this month, was partly so that Nintendo could avoid potential hardware supply issues. Although Nintendo had planned a launch in late 2024 for Switch 2, according to the group, quote, priority was given to ensure the initial inventory of the successor console and a lineup of software titles at the time of its launch in an attempt to avoid widespread reselling, which I think is good. I mean, the thing with like scalpers are just no fun for anybody. It just is no fun for anybody. By the way, Pretty Eye, thank you for the membership. I don't know why it just popped up on my screen, but thank you. But it's just no fun for anybody. It's no fun for anybody. It's miserable. People come in, they buy it up because they use like a bot. What was the name of that company that I think they're mainly used for like sneakers? Because sneaker people are insane. And like, if you think like scalpers are bad in the video game space, with sneakers, apparently it's a whole other issue. Like it's another world of drama. It's crazy. But there was a bot system that was used for sneaker scalping, and people started using it for scalping PS5s. When the PS5 launched, they used it to scalp like 4080s, 4090 graphics cards all over the place. And it was just really toxic because it's basically a bot. You plug it in, you give it your like PayPal info, whatever. And then it just is a bot that refreshes the page like once every second over and over and over and over and over again, and waits until inventory shows up. And then it quickly goes through the process of purchasing it for you. And you pay like an extra $50 or $100 a month or whatever for it. And you got your console, but you're able to buy it while it's sold out immediately for everybody else. And then you flip it for twice the price and you make your money back. So a lot of people were doing this. And we've all seen the images of scalpers with 15 PlayStation 5s and 35 Switches back at launch. And they're selling each of them for twice the MSRP. And it just sucks. It just sucks. It also is a thing, of course, with with concert tickets, and it's just a bummer. It's a bummer. So it's nice to see that some of these big companies are trying to find ways to avoid that, because the Switch originally had issues with stock as well. I mean, I've told the story many times of when I got my Switch and the drama that ensued there, as me and another guy are like racing through the parking lot trying to get to the counter first because there was only one left at this one Target in all of northern Colorado, and we'd been calling and asking them if it was available, and it was just crazy. I ended up getting it, but but it was a crazy thing, and it was just generally sucky, because you'd hope, especially for Nintendo, on the one hand, you know, people are like, why do they care about scalpers? Because for them, they still sold the console at full price, whether it was bought by a scalper or not. They still sold out of inventory, so they're happy. But they're not as happy as they could be. They're really not, because when a scalper buys up consoles, they buy them up at full price, and that's all Nintendo gets for it. It's sitting now on a shelf or in some guy's closet while he waits and tries to sell through his new inventory secondhand. So Nintendo's not making any money during that time. They will then make money when you come in after you bought the scalped console and then go and purchase games. But that could take a month for them to sell through that inventory. It could take 2 months. You just never know. Whereas if they can get the consoles to actual gamers, they make their money on the games right off the top immediately. You know, then you come in, you buy it from Target, from Amazon, wherever, and then you go and you buy a $60 game here, $70 game there, $40 game here, each through the Nintendo eShop, and they get a 30% cut of each and every single one, and they're happy about it. So it's more about maximizing revenue. Like, yeah, they can sell out of inventory, but they'd much rather sell out of inventory to people who are then going to buy more stuff because now they have the console. So to see them trying to shore up supply is very, very interesting. A lot of people also thought, I remember doing a presentation in college shortly, when would that have been? I think it was like going into holiday of 2017, maybe. But I remember doing a presentation about the Switch and artificial scarcity, because at the time there was a lot of debate over whether or not they intentionally withheld inventory, specifically so that people would be more excited about the console, be all like, ooh, I gotta race and get it, I gotta find a way to do it. And it wasn't actually real. It was all part of a conspiracy because they wanted to hype you up for it to make it all the more exclusive that you couldn't find it anywhere. I don't think that's the case. That was kind of the conclusion we reached during the video, or during the presentation, but it was an interesting theory nonetheless. But to see them now focusing on trying to fill up inventory is super cool. They say that the next Nintendo console will again be a hybrid portable home device similar to Switch. The publication also corroborates the machine will have a larger screen than the original 6.2-inch display. Apparently, it's been rumored it's not going to be OLED either, which feels like a step down than the OLED version we have now. They noted that it could slip beyond March 2025, depending on manufacturing and how much software is ready for launch. It also seems they want to avoid an issue like they had back in 2017, because back in 2017, they pretty much had Breath of the Wild, and then they had like snipper clips, I think was one of them. And I think that was it. Like, there really was not much. There were like maybe 5 games, and one of them was good. Like, it was really, really rough. So they're trying to avoid that and have a bigger lineup. And already right now, I mean, it looks like they probably day one have a new Mario game and an actual new Mario Kart. That's not just the Wii U version, but an actual new Mario Kart. They probably port Smash Brothers to it day one with the full roster. And that right there, those 3 games, I think are enough to probably bring it in and help it find success. Oh yeah, 1-2 Switch. How could I have forgotten? So yeah, there's a lot of upside to this, but I think they just want to make sure that when they launch, they have enough inventory for everybody to get it, And they probably want 3 to 5 locked in full price first party games that you're going to buy for $70 a pop. So you're buying, let's say it launches at 300, and then you buy even just 2 full price games. They just got you for $440 right off the top. They sell you 3, you're all the way up to 510. That's what they want. And the margin on software is way bigger than the margin on console sales. So for them, probably the only way they really find a good amount of profit from the launch of this console is if they have first party games to sell day one. Like, that's going to be the key. So it makes sense that they're probably taking their time, because honestly, yeah, the Switch 2 will sell well if it launches in December or November. It's also going to sell really freaking well if it launches in May or if it launches the next December. It's going to sell well regardless. It's just a matter of when they get it out the door. They have some external pressure from investors to get it out sooner rather than later, because it was expected this fiscal year. But if they are like, hey, we just need more time, I think investors will go along with it. You might see a little dip, but nothing huge. Let's see. They said, earlier this month, we talked about this on stream as well. Nintendo told publishers the next console would launch in Q1 of 25. According to the sources, third-party game companies were recently briefed on an internal delay in Nintendo's next-gen launch timing from late 24 to early next year. One publishing source suggested the delay was so Nintendo could prepare stronger first-party software for the console. Interesting. Naturally, when the reports dropped, they dipped as much as 8.8% before settling on an overall loss in value of about 5.8%. And this is pretty much all just because the investors expected it to release this holiday, and now it's being pushed out. So it's like, okay, well, that's not great. It also, to delay it to prepare stronger first-party softwares for the console, suggests that difference of a few months is the key difference in it shipping or not shipping with first-party games, which is just kind of tighter than you would expect. You'd expect, like, they've seen this coming for a while. Why are they struggling now? So it's going to be interesting. I'm very excited. I am kind of hoping it's not just the Switch, but with different colors. Like, I kind of hope it's a very different thing. And Nintendo's usually pretty good about that, but I guess we'll see. You just never know. You just never know. Okay. Where is it? Okay, I guess we can talk about this one. This is good. I don't think it's gonna be wildly different. I mean, probably not. I would hate for them to have a Wii U situation. I think what they're gonna do is, instead of, like, Nintendo's okay with having, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP. Like, they can have different variants of that. They could have the Nintendo DS, 3DS. They had a 2DS. Like, they had all of these variants that were the same console, basically, just slightly tweaked. And it seems like that's probably what they're going to do with the Switch, is that they're going to do the Switch Ultra, the Switch Plus, the Switch Flip, the Switch whatever it is, and it's just like a folding Switch that you unfold and it's 2 displays or something like that. And that, I think, could be interesting and could be really wacky and fun and successful, and it would still be different from the current Switch. Different enough, but also the same thing, especially if they bring your current library to the Switch day one. So it's like all those games just work. It's going to be great. That could be successful. The problem with the Wii U was that they did kind of a half-ass thing where they did half new console, half the same as the old one. So, like, you could use your Wii controllers. If I remember right, you could use your Wii controllers on the Wii U, and Wii games would work on the Wii U, but it was supposed to be a new console that was also able to play stuff the Wii couldn't play. So it just didn't do things clearly. So a lot of people thought it was just a new controller and nothing more. IGN Black Flag players raised 200% upon Skull and Bones release. I sense a trend coming. Well, Fearless Wolf, thank you for the 5. That, I think, is tricky because Black Flag, I would assume, had really low player counts before. If we go back, I mean, comparatively. But, like, if you go back 6 years, you know, during each month, they probably have 1,500 to 2,000 people playing at any given time. Some months it's even bigger. Sometimes it'll jump to 4,000, 2,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,000, 1,500. So, like, there's always about probably an average of 1,500 players playing. And yeah, after Skull and Bones, it jumps a little, but it's not like, it's not crazy. Like, even Batman Arkham Knight, even Arkham Knight, of course, has seen a spike, but back in October, it had 6,000 players. Right now, it has 6,000 players. You know, of course, it was highest during launch, but it's always had like 2,000-3,000 players. Sometimes it bounces up to like 4,000. So it's not that huge of a leap up to here. It's why, like, Mark Twain, one of his sayings, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Because you can make anything sound like really horrible. You know, I can say, oh yeah, my I don't know what I could say. I could say like my checking account grew in the last week by 75,000%. And you're like, that sounds amazing. And then it's actually that I had like $1 and then I got $750 in there because I got paid or something. Like, it doesn't actually mean that amazing of an improvement, but it sounds really dramatic. You know, percentages can be deceptive. And so, like, I'm not surprised that that Black Flag is seeing a spike in player count, or like Arkham Knight is seeing a spike, but it's also, I don't think as dramatic as the articles might make it seem, where it's like, oh, it doubled. It doubled. Yeah, it doubled from like 2,000 to 4,000, or from 3,000 to 6,000. There are people that went back and played it again because they just were like, hey, pirate games are fun, I should do that. But it doesn't mean that it's like that dramatic of an improvement, you know? Oh, and it was on sale. Well, that right there explains it. Yeah. Let's see. Mulus, thank you for the £5 as well. Pirates are so underutilized in entertainment. Can we have a Naughty Dog or Rockstar pirate game already? Dude, you're telling me. I'd kill for a good old pirate game. Oh, God. It would be so cool. It'd be so good. Speaking of pirate stuff, I saw this. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? Loot bundles. Hold on. Bundle library. Yeah, it's a pirate ship one. There's this company that makes these models for like D&D campaigns. Like, okay, maybe I should rewind. This is, I don't know if this is a segment. I'm just going to show you because I find it cool and I'm going to tell you about it. Okay. So like, this is just pure nerd loot coming out. So for D&D, one of the big things you use typically for a tabletop version of it are models, are actual models that you place on the table that show the monsters, show where the characters are, show the environment, stuff like that. The newest way for people to do this, back in the day, you know, you might craft it yourself out of clay. You might go and buy something from a hobbyist store, printed in a factory in China or something. Now, the big thing is 3D printing. So people will get 3D printers and then they create their own models from it. However, not everybody is a super gifted like sculptor, right? Not everybody has that talent. I certainly don't. And so what they do is they go to a company or a group of artists that have come together and formed a company, and they hire them to basically create models for them. And then they use the models, 3D print them into reality, and then they can use them, paint them in their D&D games. One of the companies that's really, really good at this is called Loot Studios, and they do a bunch of different bundles and stuff. But they have this one, which is like a full like pirate adventure kit. Basically, you pay $30. You get all of the STL files, which are the kind of 3D files that you need to print this stuff. And then you can go in and you have each of these models that you can use. Captain Imor Jones. Look at that. Shark head dude. This guy has his head separated. The octopus head or octopus guy strangling him. Drowned guy, lost diver. The drunken fool, ghostly hammerhead. There's all sorts of super cool models. And they also have a lot of like some of these are massive. Some of these are just makeshift buoy, ghostly raft. Like this ship weighs like 20 pounds. It's like this big. It's massive. It's crazy. But people will 3D print this stuff and then they use it in their tabletop games to tell these stories. So they'll have like a segment of their D&D adventure that takes place on a pirate ship. And then there's like a whole series of events where, you know, the sea monster comes up out of the water and you got to fight them or all sorts of stuff. It's super, super cool. Super, super cool. They also have busts included. So they take the models that they made and then they put them on like a little pedestal so you can 3D print a full like bust statue for it if you want to keep it on a display shelf in the back and then you paint it or something. It's super cool. This is Loot Studios. Loot Studios. LOOT Studios. And it's just like they have all of these crazy bundles. Some of them are like sci-fi. Some of them are Voracious Sands. Look at this one. Like tons of just super badass stuff. Dune elephants, props, different objects and like environmental pieces and stuff. It's crazy. Granted, this will all be totally useless unless you have a 3D printer and a pretty big one and nice one at that. But it's super, super cool that like if you just say to yourself, ooh, I want to do a sci-fi game. I want to do a sci-fi D&D game, which you can do, by the way. I want to do a zombie D&D game. You can do that. And they have all the models like carved for you. And then you can just go in, print them. Look at that guy. Oh, baby. Look at him. You can print the models. They also have busts of the characters and stuff if you want those. Different environmental things for decorating your sets and stuff, which is super cool. And so you 3D print everything and then you're good to go and you can do a D&D campaign in a zombie apocalypse if you want. You just won't have magic. You'll just focus on like melee and maybe you do just standard ranged attacks with guns and stuff. But isn't that awesome? It's great. Ever watch Critical Role? I've tried. I just don't know I don't even know where to begin. I tried going back to their like campaign 1 first episode, but they all were talking like they already knew each other. I felt like I didn't know what was going on. The whole thing was just kind of confusing, unfortunately. So maybe I'll try again. I've been listening. Nikki and I have been really into Dungeons and Daddies recently. That's a very good one. Recommend that one. The Long Ship. So you just 3D print a long ship and then you can have characters on there doing scenes or whatever else you need to do. It's just super cool. Super cool. So that's my random cool thing of the day. Okay. Random cool thing of the day. Let's see. DevSo, I think your theory on The Last of Us remasters is correct. I've been playing the remaster for part 2 and I'm finding glitches that were never in the original PS4 version. In the PTSD scene in the barn, for instance, the sound didn't work. The backgrounds broke and I fell into the world. Really? I mean, the way that they've pitched it is that those remasters were to train new staff. That's why they were there. What the old staff has been doing is unclear. I mean, everybody's going to be like, well, they're working on Neil Druckmann's next game, whatever that is. And I think that's fair. It could be that they're in pre-production on something massive. It could be that they're doing pre-production on a couple big games. It's just not really clear. But they did hire a bunch of new people. They did clean house with a lot of stuff. They, in that documentary, Grounded 2, they outline at the end of it that their whole goal post-COVID was to get rid of crunch. They just wanted to take crunch and throw it away. And that's a big difference because, like, Naughty Dog was known as the crunch capital in the game development space. Like, if you wanted to crunch, you go to Naughty Dog because it's bad there. So it's just mad that they've managed to reinvent themselves that way. But I think that's probably also why it looks like all of their projects have taken so much longer, why they still have nothing to show for it, basically. They have a medieval game in the works, allegedly. Yeah, maybe. I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see it, but it's unclear if we're actually going to get that. Oh, someone else had the same glitch as you. Oh yeah, look at this. The barn disappears. Yeah, that's really weird. Yeah, she's in the barn and then it just doesn't load in properly. And then, like, this texture is not rendering right. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on. It's like in that flashback, it unloaded this when it shouldn't have. It's really odd. Really, really odd. Factions was in the works. Yeah. That whole factions thing is such a debacle. But I mean, that's part of the reason that Sony's margins are so low right now. That analyst was saying their margins are supposed to be upwards of like 20%. And right now they're like dropping all the way down to 6%. So they're struggling to actually become more profitable. They're actually losing profitability actively. And it's because they have all of these projects that they've spent the last few years working on that have gone nowhere, and they're just burning through cash, wasting time. I saw 3D printed Settlers of Catan. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Look at that. They actually went in, 3D printed the train pieces, painted them. Yeah, look at that. That's super fun. With a dragon there. That's fun. Yeah, that's super cool. Makes sense. It's a good idea. Like, enhance your game. Like now you just made your version of the game one of a kind. You better believe at family game nights, everybody's going to be wishing that they could play this. And the great thing about the 3D printing community is once one person makes this, they usually put their STL files online, and then you just download it and everybody gets it. Like, it's just cool. Aaron, yeah, I did play more Pacific Drive over the weekend. My thoughts right now, it's a really cool melding of a bunch of different genres, but then also the, like, mixing it in with a car is super interesting and weird. I'm still, like, trying to make up my mind on it because it does a lot of things really, really well and in a very interesting way. But I've also had a lot of technical issues and like performance issues with like really bad frame drops and things. The UI takes some getting used to for sure. It's a little overwhelming at first. So, and I doubt I'm the first one to think that, but it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot going on. But it's really cool. It's very, very different. And I think that that's exactly what gaming needs right now. If 2024 is just the year of wacky, different games, I'm okay with it. Just try different things. That's what I want. If you want another D&D podcast to listen to, Pig Rollers is amazing. Second campaign, and their third campaign just started and is in season 10. PS Library content. Oh, thank you, my friend. Yeah, I can look that. I'll pull it up in a separate tab. Never actually seen how 3D printing works. Is it easy to make a model you made and print it? I think it's easier than it's ever been, but it depends on what you're using. Like, some printers are much better than others. And some do much better quality stuff. Like, resin printers are trippy just because they're super, super effective and they make some beautiful, beautiful stuff. But, like, I think when everybody thinks of a 3D printer, they think of this. This is just a time lapse where, like, it's a head that goes over and manually prints each layer on something. It's just a cool time lapse. So they kind of imagine this. And this is something like you can do that. Of course, these are like filament based printers and stuff, but resin printers are the really trippy thing. Cause like they straight up will just pull models out of resin. So, I mean, you can see the clock going. It takes a long time, but like this is what a resin printer does. It's like straight up magic. It's straight magic, dude. It doesn't even look real. It's ridiculous. But resin printers are tricky. Like resin printers, you need to have a lot more equipment. You have to have like isopropyl alcohol baths for some of them. Some you can rinse in water, depends on the resin. But like you have to have all sorts of special equipment. You have to probably have a respirator or something. Like you need to have a curing station because it takes UV light to cure the models. Like you can see how big they are. So 3D printers, they can be as cool or as expensive as you want, but they can do some crazy, crazy cool stuff. It's just finding the application. But it's super trippy. Do you have to have a model in a specific way for it to work? Yeah, you have to have a model. You put it into a slicer, which is like a program that turns it into each layer, breaks it down like that. And you need to have a system to build supports in. Otherwise, the model will collapse. So you can see like these supports here. That's not part of the model. That's just put in for the printing process. Otherwise, like while it's printing, this elbow would just be floating in space, so it wouldn't actually work. It would just be printing into a floating vat, nothing. Like it just wouldn't work. So you have to have actual supports in place. There's a lot of software you can use to do it, though. But yeah, I mean, supports are the tricky bit. 3D printer, resin 3D printer. Boom. Solved. That's basically what like all of these sci-fi stories are, though, is like you just have the machines that can replicate themselves and build themselves. DSP 3D printed. Dude, would anybody want that? Last night he did something so cringy. He had like a stream where he made only $5 and he said, now I know a lot of you are expecting me to talk about how I only made $5 today and how I'm disappointed in that. And I'm not going to talk about it. It's like, bro, you just did by bringing it up. You just did. It's like when somebody is talking to like in a debate, I could bring up that you are an evil person who worships the devil, but I'm not going to bring that up. It's like, you just did though. What? 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 You just did the thing, though. It was pretty stupid. it was pretty stupid. Let's see. Given the recent situation, which console would you advise someone that doesn't want to commit to build a PC and used to mostly enjoy Oblivion and Morrowind back in the day? I mean, if you used to enjoy Morrowind and Oblivion, those games are pretty rare, few and far between. Bethesda's certainly not making those games anymore. So the console that I think is probably, I mean, there's multiple things to consider. Best bang for the buck is probably the Xbox with Game Pass. You pay 15 or 10, 15 bucks a month. You get Game Pass, full library, you're set. It's awesome. If you want the more premium experience, you can go with the PS5. The controller's better. There's less bang for your buck and you're paying full price on most games. That sucks, but it's the like more luxury experience, you know. So there's pros and cons to each. Bang for the buck is Xbox, probably more premium is PlayStation. I remember 5 years ago, so before the OLED model was working Best Buy, the Switch seemed consistently outsell both the PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah, I mean, it's the Nintendo consoles are always just so ridiculous. They do so well. Philip, Jesus, thank you for the very generous super chat. Thank you. Tried Pacific Drive to spice it up after Helldivers. Everyone is saying the same thing. I've noticed mixed feelings, but love the unique idea. I think the uniqueness carries a lot of its weight. I'd wait for Luke's critique. Well, thank you, Philip, for the 20. Yeah, it's very different. It's very I can't think of a game I've played that's like it, which is good. I mean, in an era of just constant remakes and remasters, it's nice to get something that's just very different. So I think that's great. But I think there are some quirks with it that kind of get in the way a tad. So, but I mean, who knows? Maybe the more I play, I'll settle into it and figure it out. So I guess we'll see. I can't wait to find out with you. How's your cats? The cats are great. They're very lovey recently. They just want cuddles all the time. I feel bad because I'll cuddle Finley, but then he makes my eyes so itchy. So I'm always like, oh, okay, let's do it. Okay. I don't understand Helldivers. I haven't bought it because it doesn't hook me. Because I have no clue what's it about. I mean, in the simplest form, it is about killing bugs and automatons with your buddies. Like that is the extent of it. It's not more complicated than that. It's just chaotic, and that's kind of the thing. Ooh. No, this is old. Okay. I got all excited because I saw somebody post this, and it's like, oh, look, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 co-op campaign revealed. Ooh! But no, it's the same thing we had before. I do think the game looks really, really good. Even if you're not a war... Okay, honest question. I guess right here we can do this as a new segment. Let me pull up the high-quality version, though. Space Marine 2. Okay. I need to hear from those of you in chat who are not currently Warhammer 40k fans, okay? I have shown you guys, I have like the display cases, I have all the models, I have, oh God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh Jesus, I have 5 armies. Okay, it's bad. It's real bad. I need help. This is me asking for help. So I like Warhammer. I need to know from those of you out there who are not Warhammer 40k fans what you think of this, because I feel that this game it kind of sells itself. I think it looks super epic and crazy, and it's a very unique art style you've probably recognized from other stuff. I mean, the big servo skulls, you probably recognize that. The Warhammer logo, of course. The Space Marines are very iconic, so you probably recognize the armor sets and everything. But this is a game that's coming out later this year, and I think the gameplay looks pretty compelling. I think graphically it looks pretty good. The set pieces look really good. But do you, as somebody who is not a Warhammer fan, do you find this also interesting? Does this also tickle your fancy? Just swarms and swarms of Tyranids. They've shown some like Thousand Suns. I think Terminators is what they showed. It's not in this trailer, I don't think, but they've shown some Thousand Suns characters and stuff. So they're going to have some more Chaos Forces, but I think it looks compelling. And you can do co-op up to up to three total players, not 3 other players. Which is kind of an interesting number. I mean, most co-op games go to 4. It feels like that's just the standard people have settled on. The choice to have 3 is interesting. I'm guessing they've delayed it for performance because a lot of these, like, it was supposed to be out this winter, meaning like a month or 2 ago, but they delayed it. And I think it's because performance probably has been a little rough. I mean, you can see this drops into like the 20s, the mid 20s. And so it starts chugging a good bit when there's a lot of enemies on the screen. So I think that that's probably why they delayed it. But I mean, they delayed it basically a year. And so that means that we get an even better and very polished version of the game I'm in. They also dropped this gameplay trailer, which I think, you know, they show some big set pieces in combat and stuff. Let me go to the big collapsing bell tower. Stuff like this, I think sells the game to people who are not even familiar with Warhammer. People love big explosions and set pieces. People love it. They eat it up. Gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble. So I think the game looks really good. And this is technically, I mean, it's coming from Focus Entertainment. Focus Entertainment has done well with, like, they did Banishers. They did, of course, Plague Tale Innocence and Plague Tale Requiem. So they've had some really successful games kind of in this same area. I love that tank just drives through them. They're not usually like 10 out of 10s. They're not going to win like Game of the Year most likely, but they usually are a good value. They're worth their price tag, and they're just kind of fun. They're not trying to push for like the game awards first and foremost. They're just going for like that good old AA feeling of fun. You see they're just mowing them down as they charge in. That's classic Warhammer right there. But I love the set pieces. I love the environmental design. It's crazy. It's crazy. Kind of Gears of War vibes. Technically, Warhammer is what inspired Gears of War. So, like, probably very tangentially, to be fair. I mean, the idea of a large-than-life dude fighting waves of weird alien-looking creatures, that isn't that novel of an idea. But Warhammer started that in like the 80s, and they probably weren't the first, to be fair, but they're probably one of the most recognizable ones to do it. The only potential thing I could see that starts to get old is maybe combat gets really repetitive if it's just fighting waves and waves of enemies. But I think if they did big boss fights or bigger encounters with some big hefty boys, that could do well. As long as the game is fun, it doesn't matter what the game looks good or not. True. Gears of Warhammer. Yeah. Check out Darktide if this looks interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Darktide is like the similar kind of horde shooter that Helldivers can kind of get into and start to feel like. But it's a little bit more cinematic on the dev side of things. It's less player-generated cinematic feelings. But that's also a very good game. Absolutely. Darktide's very good. Yeah, Darktide, very good. Let's see. As a noob who's overwhelmed by the lore, the game looks good, and I'm excited for Henry Cavill's Warhammer TV series. Yeah, dude, looks pretty good. I've not played any Warhammer, but when I saw this trailer, I got excited. Yeah, they did Atlas Falling. They published Atlas Fallen. Yeah. If I said they made those games, I misspoke. They published those games, so I just want to be clear about that. As a fresh new overhaul of the lore, game looks great. Excited for yeah. Firing into a swarm of hundreds of monsters doesn't sound that interesting, but it sure looks good when you do it. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I see what you mean. Ooh, Richard. Jesus. Thank you, Richard. Pogs in the chat. Pogs in the chat. Thank you, Richard. Wowza canalza. Been a fan of the main channel for years, and I appreciate all the hard work you put into this community. As someone who works with the platform, it is not easy. You're always entertaining, but also very clear and concise. Curious to know what the next analysis will be. I am trying to pick my battles very intentionally. And also not spoil the fun of some of these games at the same time, which is perhaps very selfish. But like, for example, I love Baldur's Gate 3. To do a classic like Luke Stevens critique type video on, or commentary on Baldur's Gate 3 would take a year of work, and the video would probably be 30 hours long. Like it would just be madness. And even then I'd probably still miss a ton of stuff. So in addition to that, it also doing those types of videos are super draining and kind of suck a lot of the fun out of those games. They make you appreciate them more, but usually you need to take a good long break after delving that deep into something. So I've been hesitant to really go crazy with that. Of course, I've played a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 and I have notes and stuff. Some of which have turned into videos, and you know, I've made smaller videos that are maybe 20-30 minutes long that are basically just a chunk of the critique but separated out. So I think that's, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 is an extreme example because it's a phenomenal game, but it's also a freaking massive game. So it's even trickier, at least with something like Red Dead 2, which is a massive game. It's going to be the same for pretty much everybody, but with Baldur's Gate 3, there's so many levels and layers that you got to dig through that it can be really, really tricky to figure out. People are saying like split it into chapters or acts. Well, it's kind of what the smaller videos are. It's just instead of it titled and put into a playlist of like chapter 1 of the Luke Stevens Baldur's Gate 3 critique, world design or whatever. Instead of doing that, it might just be a video that is the genius of Baldur's Gate 3's world design. And that's the video. That's the whole thing. And so it's framed and presented in a way that's not like the full critiques used to be, but that's because that makes it more approachable. Because when somebody sees, oh, chapter 13 of 35 Baldur's Gate 3 critique, nobody's clicking on that. They're going to go through autoplay. They'll watch chapter 13 if they watch chapter 12, but nobody's going to watch that video fresh. Whereas if it's framed as, this is the world design of the game, this is the narrative design of the game, this is this, and you can present each kind of as an individual thing, it makes it very palatable and easy to digest for people. So that's how I've been framing things recently, with smaller bite-sized videos. I mean, my bite-sized videos are still like 20 to 30 minutes long, so they're not that bite-sized, but certainly more bite-sized than like a 30-hour video. Beyond that, you know, Starfield is one. I've put a lot of work into an outline and many notes and a crap ton of footage. We probably have like 1.5 terabytes of footage for Starfield. And I was going to do like a super huge deep dive into Starfield. And then I took a break like towards the end of last year. So like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, because Starfield was just so freaking boring to play. Like it just sucked the soul out of me. You know, one of those games where you're like, I'm not even approaching having fun. Like this is miserable. That's kind of what the game started to become, as I was like, okay, I need to do a little test where I'm going to play for 3 hours and I'm going to track how many times I see the same location, just playing organically. And it's like, no part of this is fun. It was miserable. So that was something that I was working on that kind of got put on ice temporarily. I still think I could go back and do that, like do a bigger video on Starfield, because I think there is the potential for that, but I'm also kind of waiting for this big update because they've hinted a few times there's going to be a big update. And the last thing I want is to like launch the huge video and then they drop an update with like, oh, here are vehicles. Now you can ride a speeder bike. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're probably going to give you a boost pack that moves a little faster. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy, but I guess we'll see. As for like other smaller games, I was actually kind of expecting Suicide Squad to have like a 30-hour campaign. So I was actually setting aside time to do like a big critique of Suicide Squad. And it ended up just being so short that I can't, like, there's not enough to talk about. Like in my review, I covered everything pretty much in the entire game. So there really is not much to talk about. So that was kind of surprising. I do think one of the games that could be the next one that would be very approachable would be Dragon's Dogma 2. And I think also a Helldivers bigger deep dive could be good. I just have to get through more Helldivers. So that's going to be the big thing. So long answer to your question, which is funny because you said I'm very clear and concise, which is the opposite of this answer. But I think as of right now, I'm not totally sure. The clear like front runners for the next big project would be Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and probably, I know some people want Final Fantasy, but I think that's even too big of a thing to bite off because like you'd have to also do Final Fantasy 7 remake and then Rebirth at the same time. So that would be a massive undertaking. So beyond that, it's like, I think people maybe expect, I don't even know what they expect. I don't even know. I mean, I do plan, just to be very clear, like we'll do a big deep dive for Assassin's Creed Red no matter what. Star Wars Outlaws, I imagine there's going to be enough to sink our teeth into there. So I fully expect a big video there. But as for in the short term, it's not super clear. We're about to hit a lull. I think in April, we'll have plenty of time that we could delve into that stuff and probably do a big video. So I will figure it out. I will figure it out. Elden Ring DLC, yeah, that comes June 21st, I think it was. So yeah, that's the tough thing with that is that July is usually dead, and so July is when we go on like our 4th of July vacation. So it's going to be tough to do a lot of work on that at that time, but who knows? Maybe it also depends on how big it is. They're charging $40 for it. If it's like a 20-hour campaign or 20-hour expansion, it's going to be relatively easy to get through. But if it adds like 40 hours, it's going to be probably all I'm playing that whole trip. So WWE 2K24 and Helldivers are the next games I'm getting. Oh, Helldivers is a good one. Helldivers is a very good one. But thank you again, Richard. That's extremely generous. $100 dues. That's crazy. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm going to be sinking my teeth into. You better believe it. You better believe it. Been a fan of the main channel. Oh, I just read that one. Jesus. I'm a professional, can you tell? Max, thank you also for the $10 Canadian. Hey, Luke, you went from acting to business school to YouTube. How did you come up with the process of game critique deep dives? Were you like, hey, I'm qualified to do it now. Love your work. Thank you, my friend. I just always loved rambling about video games, so I just started turning those into videos, and then people liked listening to them. It's pretty much that simple. It's I wish there were a more elaborate answer, but that's kind of what it is. It's just I like talking about games. I started turning them into videos, and then people started listening and watching. You know, it's crazy. First video I saw of you was your take on Mario Odyssey, and it was the first and maybe only review I found that coincided with my opinion. Been watching you ever since. Great work, fellow gamer. Dude, I remember that video because I still don't get how people could say Mario Odyssey is a 10 out of 10. Like, I really don't understand how you could possibly say that. I think the game is fine. Like, fine. But I don't understand how you could say that that's like a 10 out of 10 best Mario game ever. I genuinely don't understand. I've tried to figure it out. I've tried to watch people's reviews on it that really do love Mario Odyssey. I just don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I made that video saying as much, and people were not happy. People were not happy. The worst blowback I think I ever got, at least from what I remember, was, and it's probably because I was a very, very young dude, very fresh YouTuber, so I never gotten blowback before. Like, people still come in and they give me crap for like bashing Starfield. People give me crap for bashing, of course, Suicide Squad. You guys even saw it today on stream, and I'm used to it. So it's like, yeah, baby, you want a bottle? Maybe one bottle and diaper change. You know, we can have fun with it. But back then, I had no perception of it, and it freaked me out. And so one day, I made a video explaining how I thought that No Man's Sky, this was like early 2016, No Man's Sky, I thought looked like it was too good to be true, and it probably was not going to live up to the hype. And oh my God, people lost their minds. People lost their actual minds. It was the first time I ever got death threats. Like, unbelievable. No Man's Sky fans back in the day were on another level of crazy. It was madness. Absolute madness. And then the game came out and it was like, oops. Death threats over that. Me saying I didn't think No Man's Sky would live up to the hype back in like 2016, early 2016. I probably had like 100 subscribers or something, and people lost their minds. And then, you know, it aged like fine wine, but what are you gonna do? Caldaria, thank you for the 2. Helldivers is fun because it's West marches in space. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you kind of make your own fun. So it's really important to have friends, I think, to play with. It's fun with randos too, but it's really fun if you have friends, for sure. Koa PTAK, thank you for the 10. Jesus. Hey Luke, how do I recommend video for you to see? Usually what we do is if you go to our Discord and you tag me, like you link it and then tag me in the comment or whatever, I can see it. Or a mod will see it and go through it first, and then if it's good to go, we can watch it on stream. I used to have it open and I'd just be like, ooh yeah, I'll watch whatever on stream. But nowadays it's just, if I open it up like that, people just start sending me like really not okay videos to watch live on stream. They'll try to like prank me like that, or they'll send something that's just totally not relevant. And it's like, oh, this is a video on how to cook a pork chop in a bolognese sauce. Cool. I mean, that's very useful information. Not really sure what the use is, but okay. Discord link should just be this. Voila. But yeah, as for like bouncing between, going back to Max, bouncing between business school, acting, YouTube, and everything, I just have a lot of different hyperfixations that I go through, and with it, it's I think we bounce through different things. Did that not work? Did it not post the link? It posted it on Twitch for some reason. Hold on. Give me a second, I'll post it. So that's something I can check later. Is for some reason the chatbot command for Discord is not working on YouTube, but it's working on Twitch. Come on. There we go. There we go. Golly. No Man's Sky is still so broken. I tried it on PS5 and there's still hazard protection bugs, Minotaur hard frame upgrades, blocks aim reticle, and the first aid and hazard boxes don't even work right. I've tried to get into No Man's Sky. It's just such a massive game at this point. It seems like you have to put 40 hours in before you actually start to play the current version of the game. And that's just, it's so much. Like, it's such a hurdle to get over. Because it's like the early game is most of the old stuff, and it's it's just not that fun. It's not that great. So the really good stuff you have to grind for and get through like 40, 50 hours. And I just don't know if I can do that. You ever been rickrolled? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, Rocky, one of our main mods, he'll send links and be like, oh my God, Luke, breaking news, check it out. And I'll click on it and it's a rickroll. Or it'll be something like, oh my God, look, Ubisoft just canceled Assassin's Creed Red or whatever. And then it's just a rickroll. Yeah, got him. It happened a lot. It happened a lot. Let's see. That reminds me, Helldivers devs hit a rickroll into the config file. Mad lads, really? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. You gotta love that, like when devs just have fun and are not trying to take themselves super, super seriously. Let's see. Dude, one of the fences in our backyard, the wind here is crazy and it has like almost blown it down. But the house next door is a rental. And so the owner has their identity super hidden in like layers of LLCs and trusts and stuff. And so they have a property management company that manages that. So I contacted the management company and asked them to contact the owner so that we could split the cost of fixing / replacing that fence. And it's been like 2 months to get them to do anything. And you want to know the crap? You want to know the real crap with it? The only way I can demonstrate this is with MS Paint. I'm sorry. This is the madness, okay? You should get mad as I'm getting mad, okay? If you imagine the fence like it's just a regular neighborhood like this. So just like imagine here's a house. Ooh, Luke's house. So nice. And then here's a house, the neighbor's house. Ooh, so nice, right? This is my house. Okay. And this is that neighbor who is like a rental landlord. Okay. This shared fence right here. This is like falling apart because the wind blows in this way and it's like snapping here in the center. Okay. It's real bad. So because of that, I said, dearest property management company, I want to replace or repair this section of the fence. That's all I want to do. It's falling apart. The HOA says we split responsibility. So we gotta split the cost of replacing this portion of the fence. They said, absolutely makes sense. We'll contact the owner. We'll get it done. Okay. Then they disappear for a couple weeks and they like, okay, we got the quote on the fence from the HOA's fence guy. And they gave us the numbers, whatever it was. Like, let's just use round numbers to be easy. It was like, let's use a crayon. I think it was like, for this, it was going to be like 2K or something. I don't know. We'll just say 2K. So kind of looks like AK. 2K. Okay. So then what he does, like this would split. So now my portion is only 1K, right? I pay 1,000, they pay 1,000. We fix the fence. What they disappear for another period of time. And then they come back and they're like, okay, the owner actually really wants to replace their whole fence. So they want to replace all of this. So we're going to contact the owners for you, the owners back here, and the owners on this other side. And we're thinking, you know, if the total cost to replace the fence, I think the total cost was going to be like 9,000 or 12 or maybe 12,000 for the, I think it was 12,000, something like that. Like 12,000 for the whole fence. Okay. 12K. So he's like, yeah, and split 4 ways. That's going to be $3,000 a piece. And we'll just replace the whole fence. I was like, wait, hold on. You guys already know what's coming. You already could see through this. He's like, yeah, so now you will pay $3K and it'll be an all new fence. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would I subsidize the replacement of this fence and this fence? And also, why is this owner paying a quarter when they should be paying half of each of these? That doesn't make any sense at all. So like if this fence is $2,000 to fix, this fence is $2,000 to fix, so $4,000 total. And then this side is going to be $8,000 for whatever reason. They should be paying $4,000 for this side. And then, you know, that's after it's split halfway. And then this side, if this was going to be $2,000 to fix, it goes just down to $1,000 and then $1,000. So really they should be paying in total $6,000 or half of that total because they are the shared property owner on all sides of the fence. And so like when they sent me this email and they're like, yeah, so you'll only pay $3,000 and now the whole fence will be replaced. It's like, I don't give a crap if this side of the fence is fixed or if this side. That's not on my property. It's not my problem. Why would I expect like these guys to fix this side of the fence? That doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. It's madness. It's ridiculous. So I wrote this out in an email and I was like, I'm not going to subsidize the neighbor's fence that is not shared with my property. That doesn't make any sense at all. I want this portion of the fence that's falling apart replaced. And I asked the HOA. The HOA is like, yeah, if they keep dragging their feet, you can just pay out of pocket to replace the fence. And under the HOA bylaws, they have to split the cost with you. So you just take them to small claims court and you'll get a judgment issued and you'll get your money back. I was like, oh, okay. That works. So the nice thing about the HOA is that they've already agreed that we're going to split the cost of this fence. If there's no HOA, it would just be like, please let me fix this. Please let me fix this. And if they didn't want to, I would just have to pay out of pocket or let the fence collapse. Which sucks. But at least the HOA, they've agreed on paper that we have to split the cost. So even if they keep dragging their feet, I still will get half of the fence paid for. It's just going to be jumping through some more hoops. But what really bugged me was them going, okay, yeah, you want to replace this section of the fence? Cool. Well, we're going to take the whole fence, split it 4 ways. So you pay a quarter, you pay a quarter, you pay a quarter, and then they'll pay a quarter. And I was like, that's not how this works. You just tried to slip past me that this guy is going to pay half of what he should. He should be paying a half because he shares half on each side. Like, this is basic arithmetic. But I don't know if it was just that they were stupid and didn't think it through and realized that they were asking me to pay like 3 times what I should, or if they were trying to slip a fast one past me. I can't imagine they were so stupid to think that they could just do it. Well, what they said was, it was like, yeah, well, Blair, what they said was like, they got a quote to replace it and to repair it. And I think what it was is to replace it was going to be $4,000 or $2,000 a piece. And then to repair it was going to be like $800 a piece. I said, just repair it. Like, I don't need it to be whatever. But I think what they did is they then said they took the like replacement cost and then threw in something about the repair cost. And they're like, see, but now it's actually going to be fully replaced. And you'll only have to pay an extra $1,000 or whatever over the replacement cost of that, just that portion. But again, as if I would care that they fixed the other side of their house fence. Like, why is that my problem? It's not. Like, what? I think they were trying to slip one past me, and it really was like, that's not cool, dude. I don't appreciate that. But the thing is, they would have had to slip that past me and then slip it past the owner on the other side of their house and the owner behind them. So they'd have to get everybody to just not think this through to save their owner some money that they manage the property for. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, props to you guys for looking out for your client, but Jesus. So I emailed them back and I said, hey, if we don't fix this soon, if you don't like hurry up and repair this, you have to, like, the fence is going to break and it's going to blow into your client's property. It's going to blow into their house, do damage to their deck, to their siding, to their, like, it's going to cause problem for your client if they don't fix this quickly. So let's expedite it. And all of a sudden now they're responding to emails very quickly, which is just funny. This is probably the one time in your entire life that an HOA is going to be useful, because now they're obligated to pay for half of it. It's the one time. Otherwise, if they just wanted to drag their feet and be like, no, we don't want to fix the fence, I would have to just fix the fence. I could probably go to small claims court and maybe get a judgment. But the judge could always just be like, no, I mean, it's a shared fence. If the other shared owner of the fence doesn't want to fix it and you want to fix it, that's on you to fix it. So you pay for it. So at least with the HOA, they will pay for half of it, which is nice. What's the title that I'm most excited for? Excited for is probably like GTA 6, because the odds of that being bad are very, very low. Intrigued and like really interested would probably be like Star Wars Outlaws, because I think that looks awesome, but I'm just curious if it looks too good to be true, because I think it could very well be too good to be true. Of course, Assassin's Creed Red seems interesting. I think Dragon's Dogma 2 looks fascinating. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is almost here. So like there's a bunch of games. Judas looks weird and wacky, so that seems interesting. There's a lot of games that are interesting, but I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I'm like excited for them, because we just don't know much about them. Yeah, Skyrim 2. Yeah. Despacito 3. Judge Judy will settle this. Basically what Judge Judy does is what I would need to do if they don't get their act together and figure out to fix the fence. Elden Ring DLC, yeah, if you count that as a full release, yeah, I'm very excited for that. Yeah. Fun fact, if a tree limb falls onto your neighbor's side, it's their responsibility unless they have proof you've been warned about the tree potentially falling apart. Insurance calls it an act of God. Yeah, insurance has those little bitty things where they get out of the obligation to deal with that crap if they can just come in and be like, no, it's technically it's God's fault, so go to church and file a lawsuit. Which is just funny. Oh yes, and Max, thank you. Sorry, I got shocker. Luke got distracted during a stream. Oh, who would have thought? I can only imagine how much work that takes, and with your Excel sheets, I guess just over time you learn how to analyze games. One more question. What do you think about UX role in game development? I think it's super important. I mean, you guys saw the crap. Oh, you hear that one? Oh, that was a good one. You guys saw the crap that that Suicide Squad devs went through when the UI was revealed for that game. I mean, the UI was pretty busy, pretty rough. So I think it's very important, definitely, to have good UI, UX, whatever. So it's crucial. Like UI, sound design, menus and stuff like that. Oh yes. Oh, we have to go to the DMV. Shutting down now. All of that, the key with it is that it has to be invisible. Like in the best case scenario, those things are invisible. Technology is at its best when it's invisible, and I think it's the same thing with UI. Like when it's working well, you don't notice it. Same with good property or good sound design. When it's working properly, you don't really notice it. When a menu is really well designed, you don't even think about it. You just know where to go and you just understand it. So it's one of the most thankless jobs in game development for sure, because when you do a great job, nobody talks about it. But when you do a bad job, everybody notices, you know? So very crucial, but also high stakes. I know where I live, if a tree branch falls over your property line, but the tree's on another property, the branch is your responsibility, falls or dies or rots. Interesting. Yeah, Colorado's kind of a free-for-all. Okay, guys, I have to go to the DMV to get this tag thing figured out. I definitely shouted out, but I missed it like half an hour half an hour because it didn't pop immediately for some reason. Ooh, what's this? Can I? What does this heart button do? Oh, some of these messages I can do a heart. I know. Okay. Anyway, I think I missed it for a while, but yeah, thank you again for re-upping your membership, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah, much love, everybody. I'm gonna go talk to the sloths at the DMV. Yep. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I know it's kind of a weird stream, but that's just how it goes when your plates are stolen. So much love, everybody. I'll see you very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go play a game and drink some vitamin C or whatever, because it's that time of year when you can get sick. Okay, I'm bad at outros. Bye, everybody. Bye. Much love. Bye.